Now that we know the Montreal Canadiens will be picking 5th overall, there are a few mistakes that Kent Hughes and Habs management will have to avoid making. I'll be going over some past draft misses and some potential players that you maybe haven't thought of that the Habs could target at number 5, so you won't want to miss this edition of Habs Digest. Hello, bonjour, ahoy, and welcome to today's news edition of Habs Digest. I'm your host, Josh Gosse, and before we get into the video, thank you to every single one of you that came out to the stream last night. Thank you everyone who watched my video last night, our best performing video ever. Love that you guys love this draft lottery content, and before I get into this video, quick reminder to hit subscribe. We're rapidly going past 5,000 subs. We're soon to be at 6, so if you can hit that button and you haven't already, make sure you do it. We have lots of great content coming this offseason. So, I wanted to talk a little bit about what's going to go on when the Habs pick 5th? They have the 5th pick, but now what? Sure, my reaction yesterday, and a lot of Habs fans' reactions was like, well, that's great. We just get one of Michkov or Will Smith. The problem is, we've heard from a couple of sources, including Stéphane Leroux of RDS, including lots of Habs fans, some people who maybe may not have connections to the Habs, say that the Habs might not take Michkov if he's available. So that kind of opens the door. And the problem that I'm thinking of now is you look at a lot of, say, top 5 picks in history, and I'll bring up a few examples. Even these guys that you feel like are slam dunks at a certain pick might not end up being the player you want them to be. So to get down to brass tacks, basically Kent Hughes, in his interview last night, stated that the Habs are going to go after the best player available and the best player that fits long-term potential. Which is awesome to hear, because in the past when teams have drafted for fit, or even sometimes not, as I'm going to get into with the first example, these picks don't turn out the way you want them to. So when I say they got to be careful, I'm going to bring up this one example. And it's a guy you're all familiar with, Nail Yakupov. And it's a bit of a funny thing, because I was looking at a list of top draft busts in NHL history. I saw the link on Reddit. Someone posted this funny screenshot that I'm going to show you. Just look at this quote. Talking about Alexander Dach, because this article was before Nail Yakupov was drafted. Quote, imagine this year's consensus top prospect Nail Yakupov being upstaged in his career by Alex Galchenyuk, Ryan Murray, and Matt Dumba. That's how bad Dach was. And that's very interesting, because every single one of those players definitely had a better NHL career than Nail Yakupov. And while Galchenyuk and Ryan Murray are considered, maybe bust, maybe not. Of course, Galchenyuk had a 30-goal season. Murray is really not that bad. Definitely Matt Dumba, who is still rocking with the Minnesota Wild, all had much better careers than Nail Yakupov, who was the consensus number 1 guy. Right? And even someone like Dach, who was compared to Joe Sakic, Steve Yzerman, didn't live up to his expectations. So what I'm saying is scouting has come a little bit further since those years, but at the same time, these picks here can be a bit of a gamble. But when you look at this draft and you see the top 5 talents, you know that Matvei Michkov is the second best player in this draft talent-wise, and if, say, he's already gone, you know Will Smith projects to easily be a top-line center at the NHL level. How do you go off the board and pick someone else? I'll bring up another example here. Let's talk about a guy that we're all familiar with, Jonathan Drouin. I mean, he was amazing in the Q. 209 points in 349 games at this point when this article was written. This was a few years ago, I believe. But given how highly touted he was before and after being drafted, he didn't even post a full season scoring pace above 60 points. And guys, spoiler, I don't think he ever has. I think this year he might have been close, but ended up not really near that 60-point pace at least. So Jonathan Drouin, Nail Yakupov, guys we all know about, guys that didn't perform up to their expectations. So Habs management, while they said they want to go for best player available, they're really going to have to stick to it, because there are going to be busts here and there, right? There are going to be guys that just aren't going to live up to the potential you want. So what are the choices? Well, I've already outlined Matvei Michkov and Will Smith. But you know what's funny? When I go into mock drafts from different people, from different news sources, at least the 3 that I have to present to you today have 3 completely different players that almost no one has been talking about for the Habs picking at 5th overall. Which, again, leads me to a bit of a worry. Because if they don't take Michkov and he's available, is that something that Habs management and maybe every team that passed on him will come to regret for the next 10 years? It's very interesting. Because the idea of looking at a guy like Michkov, who, if he ends up being a bust, it will not be because of talent. Almost certainly not because of talent. It will be because he doesn't come over to the NHL because of some Russian security issues. But if you're passing up that kind of talent for someone that, maybe has not even slipped into the top 5 in any mock draft this year until now, that's questionable. So let's get to my first source here. This is from The Score. They have left winger Zach Benson, who played for the Winnipeg Ice in the WHL. He racked up a point per night at the age of 16. At 17, he surged to third in league scoring behind Bedard and an overager in Chase Wheatcroft. He's smart, slippery, scrappy, and a defensively attentive toolkit justifies the decision to add a second diminutive winger beyond Caufield. And when they say diminutive, he's small. Diminutive means small. He's like 5'9" too, right? He's also a small left winger who could fit on the Canadiens because it's a very interesting roster construction. You have big guys like Slafkovsky, like Anderson, like Dach. Then you have small guys like Caufield and Gallagher. It's kind of this, David and Goliath kind of like next to each other on every single line. Zach Benson looks to be a good player, but would I ever pick him over Michkov or Will Smith? No, I don't think so. Like, let me know what you guys think of Zach Benson, and let me know what you guys think of this next guy that's coming up in a mock draft, Dalibor Dvorsky. Now, Dalibor Dvorsky, I believe he's Slovakian. Correct me if I'm wrong, but this is Craig Button's full top 16 mock draft. And if you look here, Zach Benson in Craig Button's draft goes number 12 to Arizona. So to me, if you're picking top 5, and there's this much disagreement on how good prospects are from among the best scouts, well, I mean, at least prospect guys in the NHL world, someone like Craig Button, someone like Bob McKenzie, like picking someone that is at like 12 on one and 5 on another, to me, that when there's so many guys like, for example, Will Smith, Michkov, and then Carlson, Fantilli, Bedard are basically the consensus top 5 guys, and like if you average it out over every single mock draft, reaching for someone like Benson or even Dvorsky seems a bit questionable, especially with Dvorsky's recent struggles when he stepped up. I think he's in the Swedish league, Allsvenskan, something like that. But when he went against guys who were older than him, the full adult league, he really struggled. He really stagnated. We didn't see the improvement we wanted. And that's something we've maybe heard from some prospects before, right? They don't improve the way you want them to when they go to a higher league. That can be a red flag. Maybe it won't be, because at all levels, he's dominated at his same age group. So maybe it'll just take him another year or two to adjust to the new game and eventually be really good. So Dalibor Dvorsky could be another option. But let's go to this other one. A third. I only looked at 3, and all 3 of these don't have either Will Smith or Matvei Michkov going to Montreal. If you noticed in the scores, I think they had Michkov going 6th, I believe, and then in Craig Button's, he also had Michkov going 6th, and then in this one, I think this was Sportsnet. I think it's Sportsnet. I can't really remember, but anyway, this one has Ryan Leonard, a right winger who plays with Will Smith and Gabe Perreault at the U.S. National Development Program. They will have no issues. Ryan Leonard will have no issues competing hard and heavy when the game calls for it. He's another bigger guy who plays like a power forward. Deft shooter, efficient at bringing pucks off the wall. He gives a bit of grit, a bit of beef to a set of forwards that could use that element. So Montreal should be excited with this pick. Leonard finished the season with a plus 77, scoring 59 goals and 52 assists in 64 games. So yeah, Ryan Leonard is also good. But again, is he really that much better than picking someone like Michkov? And I guess this video has sort of turned into, should they pick Matvei Michkov or not? And we've made that point clear on our channel. We think Matvei Michkov should be picked, but if Kent Hughes doesn't go for him, you better be very, very careful. And that's kind of what this video boils down to. You have these mock drafts saying, pick Zach Benson, pick Dalibor Dvorsky, go out and pick Ryan Leonard. And there's even drafts saying, like, maybe they should pick David Reinbacher. If you look at Marco D'Amico's article today, he mentions Reinbacher as another possibility to pick at that 5 spot. It's like, you better be darn sure. And Kent Hughes, to his credit, in the video yesterday, as you guys probably saw, Kent Hughes said he wants the best player available. They will do their scouting, and if they think a player has the talent to make Montreal a contender down the line, they will pick him. And to me, that sounds like they'll go for either Will Smith, Michkov, or Carlson, whoever is left there at 5. But there is that little element of worry. What if it doesn't happen? And if it doesn't, all I'm saying is for Kent Hughes and management to be very, very careful where they walk, because you don't want this pick to be something you regret for the next 10 plus years. But that'll do it for this news edition of Habs Digest. Please let me know what you think of this video in the comments below. I want to hear your debates on these potential picks like Zach Benson, Dalibor Dvorsky, these guys that maybe you're not typically seeing in these mock drafts in the top 5. Let me know what your thoughts are, what your worries are with Montreal. I'm sure a lot of you yesterday said, let's pick Michkov. A lot of you guys said, I'm afraid the Habs won't pick Michkov. That's kind of my sentiment, so I'd just love to hear what you guys have to say down below. I've been Josh Gosse. We'll catch you in the next one.